Yes. Well, I'm glad to hear that Bernie has conceded that his education was destroyed all those years ago. Can I just...
He's picking on me. He says he can't reach me.
Can I just remind everybody, don't believe this conversion to AV. It's a ridiculous system. It's no better than first past the post. What we need is real electoral reform. First past the post, AV is... We want AMS system. I know I can't explain it to you because it's really complicated. So, politics has been destroyed. Well, AMS, additional member system. Please look it up and agree with me, if you like, or other people, that that's the only way forward. It's a system we introduced to Germany after the Second World War, so we must have believed in it. But I don't think they reckon that the UK electorate is ready for it quite yet. Well, it must be. Anyway, I wasn't actually going to say that, because politics, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing! Say it again! I'm really disturbed by the whole political process. I want to sweep a lot of them out and replace them with the Green Party. What I want is, I've just told you what I want, but apart from that, they have destroyed us environmentally, they've destroyed the economy, the very thing we thought we could trust them on, and they've eroded our public services, and our social justice system is going to pot as well. All these things are what politics should not be doing to us. We need a system that is in harmony with nature and puts people before profit. That's my ethos and my core principle.
By the way, if anyone does want to join the debate, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put up your hands. We are taking non-submitted questions from the audience. But if you're talking about electoral reform, we did actually have a question submitted about that. And is Jack here to ask you, Pat asked to ask a question on behalf of Bingle for Blue Law?
Yes, I am.
It has the blue at the moment.
Okay. The question is, why aren't the parties more proactive about changing the profoundly democratic British voting system? Would that not be a major step towards breathing new life into British electoral politics?
Fabian, would you like to think about that?
That's quite interesting, isn't it? It's all the parties in the room which aren't in government which are asking for electoral reform. It's quite telling, isn't it? And let me tell you what happens. Let me tell you what happens when you get electoral reform. And in most cases, the change is made for purely calculated party political reasons. If you look at France, what happened in the mid-1980s, the socialist government, pretty much in a similar position to Labour at the moment, the socialist government under Mitterrand changed the voting system in 1984-85. For the first parliamentary election after that, the National Front gained something like 40 seats. At a stroke, Jean-Marie Le Pen was famous across France and across Europe. I don't want to have a voting system which gives disproportionate weight to nutty fringe parties. I'd say quite as bluntly as that. I don't want to have any extremist parties on either side represented in Parliament. So that's one of the reasons why I'm against electoral reform. The second reason why I'm against electoral reform is because I actually think if you had a proportional voting system, you would make politics less, not more democratic. Let me explain what I mean. At the moment, you've got a relatively clear, stable majority. You get a government. If you don't like that government, you can throw that government out. You get a very clear alternative government which can come in and replace that government. If you've got a proportional system, as we heard operates, for instance, in Germany or operates in many other countries, you always get coalitions. And Don won't even tell us which side he is on. Will he align with Labour or the Conservatives? So if you vote for him, you don't know whether you end up with Brown or with Cameron. It's entirely unclear. And how can that possibly be democratic? You vote for a party and yet you don't know which coalition partner this party would ever support once in power. And of course, once that coalition is set up, the original manifesto is quickly forgotten because the coalition agreement is agreed behind closed doors, and whoops, we've got a completely different set of policies. That, I would suggest, is profoundly undemocratic.
Patty and then Don to come back on that. If we could try and find
to change.
Or about to be out of government.
Not necessarily the case. In case of Labour. So anyway, I would challenge that, and as I said, there have been plenty of Labour politicians pushing for reform while being in power and had strong majorities. The whole point of proportional representation is that it is exactly that, and I think in all the systems there are safeguards, and we're not going to go into all the details of all of them, so that you don't get the tiny fringe, right off the deep end parties getting elected, or only in very few cases. You look at France now, and Jean-Marie Le Pen is pretty much off the map, I think.
Just scored very well in local elections.
There are plenty of governments in Europe which work perfectly well under a proportional system. I do believe that we should change the system. I think some of us have actually already covered this in the answer that we've just given, so I'll stop there. Yes, Steve.
Ivo earlier asked what politics was, and I replied it was about power. And by that I mean power to the people. The devolution of power so that everybody has an opportunity to be able to have a voice in the decisions that are made in this country. And that's why, for example, the Liberal Democrats are in favour of the devolution of power downwards from central government to local government, giving local government more power. It's why we passionately believe, and have argued for very, very many years, that our second chamber shouldn't be based on whose son or daughter you happen to be, and it should be democratically elected. But the real truth is that we currently have a government, because the government are still there, even though we've lost our jobs as MPs, the government are still there, and they were elected on 22% of the eligible voters in this country. Or if you take those who turned out to vote, it was 35% of those who turned out to vote. And that gave them a huge majority in Parliament and enabled them to form the government. That is grossly and absolutely unfair on the British people, and your voice is being denied because of an unfair electoral system. So we need to move to a fairer voting system, to a proportional voting system, not to AV, which you quite rightly say is not a proportional system. We can argue which is the best PR system till the cows come home. We've already, as a result of lobbying, achieved it for the European election, for the Welsh Assembly, for the Scottish Parliament, for Scottish local government elections, and for the GLA in London. All that's left is the National Parliament and local elections in England, and we will win that battle and get fair votes so that we really can give power to the people without a change. And this is nothing to do with getting fringe parties in or people wanting to grab power from the political party. It's about grabbing power to give it to the people of this country. That's why I want to see it change, and I'll continue to campaign for it.